Most men fail, not because women deceive them, but because they deceive themselves. They believe what is shown and ignore what is hidden. In this video, we uncover the unspoken truths women keep concealed and how a man who sees them gains power while others fall into weakness. In a world where appearances deceive, men often live under illusions about what women truly think. But as Niccolò Machiavelli taught, truth is not found in pretty words. It is hidden beneath silence, hesitation, and unspoken desires. Today we will expose the secret thoughts women carry, but will never admit to men. And in doing so, we solve the greatest problem of all, how a man can rule his own destiny without being ruled by illusions. Men are often deceived by the words they hear, because they want those words to be true. A woman may say she desires kindness, gentleness, a man who listens endlessly to her emotions. And though she may believe these things in part, her actions will tell you another story. If you watch carefully, you will see her nature reveal itself. What draws her in is not endless compassion, but a quiet strength, a force of will that she cannot bend. Women rarely admit this, for to say it openly would invite judgment. Society teaches them to praise the man who is harmless, sacrifices everything to please them. Yet when such men present themselves, they are quickly discarded. Why? Because words without force hold no weight. Machiavelli observed that men are judged not by their intentions, but by their results. The same law applies in matters of desire. A man may speak sweetly, may swear loyalty, may drown a woman in endless compliments, but if his strength is nowhere to be seen, his words turn into dust. This is why you see women drawn to men who possess authority, even if those men show little affection. The politician who commands a room, the leader who makes others obey, the man who walks with certainty. All these figures carry a power that words alone can never create. A woman may not confess it, but her respect is tied not to how gently you treat her, but to whether you stand firm when challenged. She may argue with you, test your resolve, even grow angry at your decisions, but if you remain steadfast, her admiration grows. The tragedy is that most men do the opposite. They believe the lie that affection alone is enough. They pour their time into endless gestures of devotion, always yielding, always apologizing, always softening their edges for fear of losing her. Yet in doing so, they lose the very quality that inspires her loyalty. For a woman does not wish to be the sun around which a man revolves. She wishes to feel his gravity, to sense that she orbits around something unshakable. When he abandons his strength in exchange for words, he makes himself replaceable. Consider the nature of strength itself. It is not mere physical dominance, though this plays its part. Strength is clarity, decisiveness, and the courage to act even when others waver. A man who says little, but acts with precision, inspires more than a man who speaks endlessly, but trembles when it is time to decide. Women may never admit this hunger for strength, but it governs their choices in silence. The lover they chase, the leader they admire, the man they refuse to forget, each carries this aura of strength. You may ask, why do women deny this truth? Because to confess it openly would strip away the illusion they must uphold. If a woman declared that she respected strength more than kindness, society would accuse her of cruelty. If she admitted that power excites her more than poetry, she would be called shallow. Yet in secret, her heart makes its own calculations. Machiavelli wrote that men should be judged by their actions, not their proclamations. The same applies to women. Watch how they behave, not what they say. Observe a woman who is offered two men. One is endlessly attentive, eager to please, careful never to disagree. The other is firm, not unkind, unwilling to bend his principles simply for her approval. Publicly, she may praise the first for his sweetness. Privately, her desire drifts to the second. Why? Because strength creates the spark of uncertainty, the thrill of knowing she cannot fully master him. To possess him feels like a victory. To possess the weak man feels like a burden. A man who grasps this truth learns not to waste his life proving affection through words. Instead, he becomes a fortress. He does not fear disapproval, for he knows disapproval is temporary while respect is lasting. He does not collapse under pressure, because he understands that to bend too often is to break completely. And while the weak man wonders why his endless kindness is met with indifference, the strong man understands that respect is the true currency of desire. A truth that few men understand is that women are not drawn only to what they know, but to what they cannot fully grasp. Mystery is a force more powerful than beauty, more enduring than wealth, and more captivating than charm. It is the silent cloak that surrounds a man who refuses to be completely revealed. Women will never admit it openly, but the man who remains partly hidden, who shows just enough of himself to provoke curiosity, yet withholds the rest, commands far greater fascination than the man who lays his soul bare without restraint. Why is this so? Because certainty breeds familiarity, and familiarity breeds contempt. When a woman believes she has fully mapped a man, when she thinks she can predict every thought, every emotion, every move he makes, her interest begins to fade. There is no chase, no puzzle, no question left unanswered. The man becomes ordinary, stripped of the very tension that once stirred her desire. But when she stands before mystery, when she feels there is something just beyond her reach, she is compelled to seek it out, to test it, to draw closer in hopes of uncovering what remains concealed. Machiavelli himself warned that the prince must never be entirely transparent, for predictability makes a ruler vulnerable. The same law applies in matters of attraction. A man who hides nothing leaves nothing to be sought. His every weakness, his every thought, his every intention lies in the open, and thus, he offers no reason for deeper pursuit. But the man who guards parts of himself, who reveals only what serves his purpose, becomes a puzzle that never loses its grip on the mind. Consider how women speak of men who have passed through their lives. The ones they forget quickly are not always the cruel or the unworthy, but the predictable. They remember the man who was an open book, but not with admiration, rather with indifference. Yet the man they cannot forget is the one they never fully understood, the one who gave them passion but not complete possession, attention but not constant availability, presence but also absence. His memory lingers because the story feels unfinished. Mystery leaves a mark where certainty leaves only closure. And so, women find themselves enthralled by men who carry silence as a weapon. Not silence born of weakness, but silence born of restraint. To answer every question, to justify every action, to explain every detail, this is the work of a man who fears losing approval. But to withhold explanation, to allow a question to remain unanswered, to smile without revealing the reason. That is the art of mystery. A woman may grow frustrated by it, may even demand clarity, but within her frustration lies fascination. The power of mystery lies also in contrast. When a man is partly revealed and partly hidden, she is left to fill the gaps with her imagination. And the imagination once stirred often paints a man greater than he truly is. It is not the complete picture that captures her, but the pieces missing from the frame. She begins to wonder, to speculate, to test, and in doing so, she invests herself more deeply than she ever would in a man who laid everything bare from the start. Men often make the mistake of confusing honesty with full disclosure. They believe that to win loyalty, they must reveal every secret, confess every thought, open every wound. Yet this floods the ground instead of nourishing it. A wise man knows that honesty is best given in doses, that truth must be chosen carefully, and that his entire self is a kingdom that not everyone is permitted to enter. To maintain mystery is not to lie, it is to govern access. And women, though they may never admit it, are drawn to a man who guards his gates. Observe closely how women test the men they meet. They ask probing questions, they watch reactions, they search for cracks. When a man reveals himself too quickly, their curiosity dies. But when a man deflects, when he redirects, when he chooses silence instead of needless explanation, he awakens something deeper, a hunger to know more. She feels she has touched the surface of an ocean without seeing its depths, and the unknown calls to her like a siren. This is why mystery outlasts beauty. Beauty pleases the eye, but mystery holds the mind captive. The man who understands this does not rush to reveal himself, nor does he fear being misunderstood. He allows questions to hang in the air. He allows doubt to stir, for he knows that desire does not live in answers. It lives in the spaces between them. Men are often deceived into believing that love alone will hold a woman's loyalty. They imagine that grand gestures, poetic words, and constant romance will secure her heart forever. But what they fail to see is that beneath the veil of passion, there is a far more powerful force that governs her choice's security. A woman may crave romance, but she requires stability. She may dream of affection, she is anchored by protection. This is the truth she will never admit, for to confess it would reveal that her deepest calculations are not ruled by sentiment. Security comes in many forms, and each one weighs heavier than romance. Financial stability, for instance, is never openly spoken of, because to admit it would draw accusations of selfishness or materialism. Yet look carefully at the patterns of women's choices, and you will see the truth. The man who offers consistent provision, who demonstrates control over his resources, commands far more silent respect than the man who spends all his energy on endless declarations of love. It is not the poems that shape her decision, it is the knowledge that with him, her future will not collapse into ruin. But financial means alone are not enough. There is also emotional security, the strength of a man who does not falter when storms come. A woman may enjoy the company of a man who entertains her. She admires the man who steadies her. When chaos strikes, when her emotions erupt, when uncertainty fills the air, She will look not to the one who mirrors her fears, to the one who remains unshaken. If he holds firm, she feels safe. If he collapses with her, she feels abandoned. And so, without saying it aloud, she will cling to the man whose presence feels like a fortress. This is why romance, though sweet, cannot stand alone. Romance intoxicates, but security endures. A candlelight dinner pleases her for a night. The ability to shield her from danger pleases her for a lifetime. And while she may claim that love is all she needs, her actions will betray the truth. She will not stay with the man who gives her butterflies, but leaves her uncertain of tomorrow. She will stay with the man who gives her peace, even if he is not the one who writes her poetry. Machiavelli understood that the people obey not the ruler who makes them feel loved, but the ruler who makes them feel safe. Fear of instability is a stronger chain than affection. So too, a woman binds herself to the man who shields her from fear. The weaker men misunderstand this. They shower women with romance but neglect the harder work of building a secure foundation. They imagine that flowers, gifts, and constant attention will outweigh the silent voice inside her that asks, "Will I be safe with him? Will my future be stronger at his side or weaker?" The truth is that a woman rarely admits how deeply this question drives her. To say it openly would sound calculating, as if she loved not the man, but the stability he provides. And yet, beneath her words, this calculation is always present. Just as a citizen prefers a harsh but secure ruler to a kind but powerless one, a woman chooses security over sentiment when the two are placed in opposition. Notice how often women abandon men they once claimed to love. These men believe it is because their romance failed, but the true reason lies deeper. At some point, the woman realized he could not offer her stability, whether financially, emotionally, or socially, and once she saw this weakness, her desire withered. She may have cried, she may have mourned, but her decision was made. She could not remain bound to uncertainty, for uncertainty is the greatest enemy of desire. Thus, the man who wishes to inspire lasting loyalty must see beyond the illusions of flowers and soft words. He must construct himself as a pillar, unmoving, reliable, difficult to topple. This is not to say romance is useless, rather it is decoration upon the fortress. Without the fortress, the decoration falls into the dirt. The fortress, the decoration shines even brighter. But women will never admit this calculation, for to speak it would strip the magic from their words. They will say they desire only love. Yet their choices, their actions, their loyalty, all whisper the same truth. Security weighs more heavily than romance, and the man who fails to provide it loses her, no matter how passionately he adores her. There is a truth that most men never see until it is too late. Women do not test you for amusement, nor merely for curiosity. They test you as a weapon, a deliberate strategy to measure your strength, to separate the man who can lead from the man who will follow. These tests are not spoken of openly, for to admit them would reveal too much. Instead, they appear in disguise, an argument, a sudden withdrawal, a contradiction, or a demand that seems unreasonable. To the careless man, these moments feel irrational, but to the observant, they are calculated trials designed to expose weakness. Why do women test men? Because instinct tells them what words cannot prove. A man may proclaim his confidence, but only in pressure does his true nature appear. A man may declare his stability, only in conflict is it revealed whether he can remain unshaken. And so, women create storms to see how you navigate them. They push against your boundaries, not always because they wish to break them, but because they want to know if those boundaries even exist. Consider the citizen testing his ruler. He may disobey orders, complain, or resist taxes, not because he truly believes he will overthrow the state, but because he wishes to see if the ruler will enforce his authority. If the ruler is firm, the citizen yields and respects him. If the ruler falters, the citizen grows bold and rebellion follows. So too with women. A test is not always meant to destroy you. It will destroy you if you fail it. The weak man interprets every test as an attack. He becomes defensive, he pleads, he grows emotional. He thinks that by appeasing her he will calm the storm. But appeasement only reveals fragility. Each time he yields too easily, he teaches her that he is a man who can be bent. His strength is a mask and not a reality. And once that lesson is learned, respect begins to rot. A woman may still use such a man, but she will never admire him. The strong man, however, understands the nature of testing. He does not take every challenge personally, nor does he rush to silence it. Instead, he remains calm, as if the test were expected. When she pushes, he does not stumble. When she provokes, he does not lose his composure. When she withdraws, he does not chase with desperation. His steadiness becomes the answer she was searching for. She may not admit it, but her respect grows in silence, because his strength is proven through action, not through words. Tests often appear in the smallest of forms. She may contradict you, not to prove you wrong, but to see if you stand by your point. She may delay her response, not to ignore you, but to observe if you collapse into neediness. She may provoke anger, not because she seeks destruction, but because she wishes to know if you can control your fire. Each moment is a battlefield where weakness is revealed or strength is confirmed. And here lies the cruelty of these tests. They are continuous. Passing once is not enough. Just as a ruler must enforce authority repeatedly to maintain order, a man must demonstrate strength consistently. A single failure can undo years of certainty, because in that failure, the mask of strength may be torn away. Women understand this instinctively, and though they may never confess it, their loyalty depends not on what you said yesterday, but on what you prove today. Some men complain that this endless testing is unfair. They ask why they should always have to prove themselves. But Machiavelli would remind us that power is never granted without vigilance. A prince who stops securing his position invites rebellion. A man who stops proving his strength invites contempt. Fairness is irrelevant. What matters is necessity. Women test because it is their way of ensuring that the man they follow is worthy of being followed. What men must realize is that passing these tests does not require aggression or cruelty. It requires composure, to stand firm, to maintain your frame, to act with decisiveness rather than fear. That is the true answer. Anger is weakness. Pleading is weakness. Indifference disguised as calm strength is power, and though a woman may never say it aloud, she feels it when it is present, just as she senses its absence when a man collapses. These trials may frustrate you, may even exhaust you, but they serve a purpose. They strip away illusion. They reveal whether your strength is genuine or a performance. And while a woman may never admit that her loyalty depends on these tests, her behavior will tell you everything. For in her challenges lies the silent question: are you the man you claim to be, or are you only an actor waiting to be unmasked? There is a paradox in the way women respond to truth. They will often insist that they prefer soft words, that they value sensitivity, that they desire a man who spares their feelings. And yet, when faced with the man who tells them only what they want to hear, they grow restless, suspicious, and eventually indifferent. The man who cloaks every statement in flattery may win their approval in the moment, but he will never win their lasting admiration. What they will never confess is that beneath all their talk of kindness and delicacy, they secretly admire ruthless honesty, the kind of truth that cuts through illusion and reveals a man's fearlessness. Why is this so? Because truth, when spoken without hesitation, is power. To tell the truth, especially when it is dangerous, requires courage. And courage is the quality women seek but rarely admit to. A man who dares to be brutally honest demonstrates that he values strength over approval. He shows that he cannot be manipulated into saying what pleases her, that his loyalty is to reality itself and not to her emotions. This defiance unsettles her, sometimes even angers her, but at the same time, it draws her in. For if he can speak the truth to her, he can also speak the truth to the world. And such a man is rare. Consider the difference between the flatterer and the honest man. The flatterer tells her she is always right, always beautiful, always perfect. His words may soothe, but they are predictable, and predictability kills desire. The honest man, on the other hand, tells her the truth even when it stings. He points out her faults not cruelly, but without fear. He does not exaggerate her virtues, he does not inflate her ego. And though she may protest in the moment, her respect for him deepens. She recognizes, even if only subconsciously, this man cannot be swayed by her charm. He cannot be bent to her will as easily as the others. And because he resists, he becomes more valuable. Machiavelli himself warned that men who rely on flattery are doomed, for flatterers say what rulers want to hear, not what they need to hear. A wise prince surrounds himself with advisors who will speak honestly, even harshly, because only through such counsel can he avoid ruin. The same principle applies in relationships. Women, like rulers, are surrounded by men eager to flatter them. They are surrounded by suitors who will agree with every word, who will deny reality to remain in favor. Yet the one man who breaks this pattern, who refuses to flatter, becomes unforgettable. His words may wound, his presence commands respect. This ruthless honesty also serves another purpose. It creates trust in a way that lies never can. When a woman knows a man will tell her the truth, she no longer doubts his words. She may not always like them, but she cannot question their authenticity. In a world filled with masks, such a man becomes a rare constant. His honesty may cut, but it also reassures, because it is proof that he fears nothing. Not her anger, not her rejection, not her disapproval. Yet many men fail in this. They confuse honesty with cruelty, and in their arrogance, they wield truth as a weapon to destroy rather than to reveal. This is not ruthless honesty, this is recklessness. True ruthless honesty is precise, controlled, and strategic. It does not seek to humiliate, but to assert reality. It is spoken without apology, but also without unnecessary malice. It is the difference between a ruler who enforces laws with justice and one who rules with brutality. One inspires respect, the other inspires rebellion. Observe carefully how women react to men who embody this quality. At first, they may resist, they may argue, grow defensive, or even accuse him of being harsh. But over time, their behavior betrays them. They seek his opinion, not because it flatters, but because it grounds them. They return to his words, not because they make them feel good, but because they cut through the illusions they weave for themselves. They may never admit it aloud, but they crave the man who will not lie to them, who will not bow to their emotions, who refuses to treat them as fragile. For in truth, women test honesty not for its comfort, but for its strength. When a man lies to protect their feelings, he shows weakness. He values their approval above truth. When a man speaks honestly, no matter the cost, he shows that he values principle above comfort. And in the end, women admire principle more than softness, even if they never put it into words. This is the secret. Women will claim to despise ruthless honesty, but it is the very thing that secures their respect. They will never openly admit it, because to do so would shatter the illusion that they prefer gentleness above all. But in silence, in the private chambers of their mind, they know it to be true. The man who dares to speak the truth, regardless of consequence, is the man who commands not only their attention, but their deepest, unspoken admiration. One of the greatest secrets women will never admit is their longing for leadership. In public, they may speak of equality, of partnership, of balance and power. They may say they desire a man who always consults them, who seeks their permission for every step. Yet in private, in the realm where their desires take form, they crave something else entirely. They crave a man who leads with certainty, who does not tremble in the face of decisions, who sets the direction with conviction. They will rarely confess it, but their loyalty and desire are bound not to the man who waits for their approval, to the man who commands it without asking. Leadership is not tyranny, nor is it domination for its own sake. True leadership is the ability to move forward with clarity when others are lost in doubt. It is the willingness to bear responsibility, to chart the course, and to accept the weight of consequences. Women instinctively recognize this quality, and though they may resist it in words, their actions betray their attraction to it. When a man leads, they feel secure. When a man hesitates, they feel abandoned. The paradox is that many women will fight against male leadership in public speech, but reward it in private conduct. Consider the household as a reflection of the state. A state ruled by indecision crumbles, for its citizens lose faith in their ruler. A state led firmly, even if not perfectly, commands loyalty because its people sense direction. The same is true in relationships. A man who hesitates, who constantly defers, who makes every choice dependent on her approval, places the burden of leadership on her shoulders. At first, she may welcome this power. But over time, the weight becomes unbearable, for it is not her natural role to guide him. It is her natural role to test his guidance. When he refuses to lead, she loses faith in his strength. This is why women often drift away from men who appear endlessly agreeable. A man who never decides, who never commands, who always bends to her wishes becomes not a partner but a servant. And servants are not loved, they are used. She may enjoy his compliance for a time, she cannot admire him. Admiration flows only toward those who lead, never toward those who follow. Leadership also carries with it an element of risk. To lead is to make decisions that will not always be welcomed. There will be resistance, there will be arguments, there will be moments of anger, yet this is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of authenticity. A leader who fears disapproval is no leader at all. Women understand this instinctively. They may rage against a decision in the moment, but secretly, they respect the man who made it without trembling. His firmness reassures them, even as they fight against it, because deep down, they know he will not collapse when the world demands resolve. Machiavelli observed that it is better for a prince to be feared than loved, if he cannot be both, because fear secures loyalty while love is fickle. In the private realm between men and women, this principle transforms into respect. A man must be respected above all, for respect binds a woman's loyalty far more tightly than affection. And respect is born not of submission, but of leadership. Men often misunderstand this truth. They imagine that leadership means aggression, that to lead they must dominate harshly or silence her voice. But true leadership is subtler and far more powerful. It is not the roar of a tyrant, but the steady hand of command. It is setting the frame, defining the boundaries, making the decision and standing by it. Women long for this steadiness, even if they will never speak it aloud. They will test it, challenge it, and sometimes even resist it, but their hearts align themselves with it when they find it. Observe carefully how women behave with men who embody leadership. In public, they may argue with him. In private, they follow. They may resist his words, but they rely on his judgment. They may demand equality in speech, but their admiration grows only when he proves his superiority in action. This is the contradiction they will never admit. They do not want to lead the man, they want to follow the man who leads. Without leadership, romance collapses, security fades, and mystery evaporates. Without leadership, the relationship becomes a drifting vessel, each decision delayed, each moment weakened by indecision. And though a woman may not declare this truth openly, her behavior will reveal it. She grows restless when he hesitates. She grows cold when he seeks her permission for every act. She grows distant when he abandons the throne of authority. But when he leads, when he commands with certainty, her resistance melts into respect, and respect becomes the foundation of her loyalty. You have now seen the truths that women will never confess, the secret thoughts that guide their choices more than their words ever will. They speak of kindness, yet they follow strength. They praise transparency, yet they are drawn to mystery. They romanticize affection, yet they cling to security. They deny their tests, yet they wield them with precision. They claim to prefer gentleness, yet they admire ruthless honesty. And though they speak of equality, deep within, they long for leadership. These truths are not given to you to breed resentment, to free you from illusion. For the man who understands reality as it is, not as he wishes it to be, gains power over himself, and by extension, over those around him. Machiavelli taught that the wise ruler must see through appearances and govern by what is real. The same wisdom applies here. Do not be deceived by words. Watch the actions, for in action lies truth. Most men will live blind to these forces, forever chasing shadows, forever enslaved by the illusions women weave with their speech. The rare man, the man who sees clearly, who understands these unspoken laws, will never be ruled by them. He will rule himself, and because he rules himself, he will command the respect, the loyalty, and the admiration that others endlessly seek, but never secure.